menu, you want this device at a high pressure. And then you're going to set it up for a full hour, or in this case 60 minutes.
All right, everybody, so now that Steph's got the beans cooking, I'm going to show you guys how I like to do salsa. Now, I've taken some hints that my wife gave me a while back, but I'm going to try to do this a little more my way and a little less hers. So to begin with, I'm going to take the remainder of her onion, and I'm going to go ahead and chop this up finely into small little pieces. Try to get this skin off of it real quick. Now, some of you who are interested in cooking may have seen some really cool ways of chopping an onion. I'm going to try that today. I do not recommend cutting an onion unless you know how to do it. So I like to put little slits on the top here. Just about evenly spaced as much as, or as well as you can. Just like that. Yeah, that one's a little off. So is that one. But I have never said I'm a professional. But basically what you're trying to get is for that little opening there. So what you can do now, go ahead and get rid of that. You can take that and you can dice that up pretty nicely into little thin bits. Now again, most of you who have been interested in cooking before and have watched cooking shows and stuff probably have seen this technique done a lot better and a lot faster than I'm doing. But hey, I'm, again, not a professional. So I'm going to continue doing that, but before I continue doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I do with the tomatoes and the jalapenos. And I've also got what is called a chili de árbol, I believe is how it's pronounced. I probably butchered that. But this is a pretty spicy pepper, so I'm only going to use one and a pretty small one as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these ingredients and I'm going to burn their skins. So why don't you come with me over to the stove where I've got a pan that's probably not heated enough because I didn't turn on the stove, but we can turn it on now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a high heat so that we can get this up to a comfortable temperature. I'm also going to put in a little olive oil to keep anything from sticking to the pan too much. Any kind of olive oil will be fine, just a little splash. And again, that's just to kind of keep it from sticking to the pan. All right, so now as this starts to heat up, I'm going to go ahead and take my small árbol chili and I'm going to go ahead and break off the stem and I'm going to empty out the seeds over here into the trash. The seeds tend to be the spiciest part of the chili, and we don't want this to be murder on the tongue. We want it to be pleasant but spicy enough to have some fun with it. So I'm just emptying out as much of the seeds as I can without losing too much of the chili itself. Now, if there's a seed or two within it, that's okay. It's just going to add a little extra kick into somebody's bite. So now my oil's heated up enough, I'm going to just coat it around the pan a little bit, so again, that we protect it as much as we can. And then I'm just going to lay these in one at a time. I don't need to prep them in any way, I'm just going to lay them in there. Same with the jalapenos. When I was a kid, I used to call them jalapenos. I know. You don't have to remind me, I'm stupid. I'm actually going to hold off on the árbol chili. I'm going to put that in later, near the end. I'm going to have to come back to this in a little bit to rotate them so that they get evenly cooked on all sides. While that's doing that, I'm going to finish cutting the onion. Okay, so I've finished chopping up my onions. One thing I kind of forgot about was that I'm actually going to throw all this in a blender in a few minutes, so I didn't really have to chop it. But I don't like onions too much, so having it more into smaller, even maybe paste-like when it goes into the blender will be more my taste anyway. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of peeling the onions. This is just minor. Again, most of this is getting blended anyway, but I like to get all the excess peel off. Not sure what it's really called. I call it peel or skin. And I'm just taking all of that off so that you don't get an unnecessary earthy bite. Something that's going to make it not taste good or the texture be off. So take all that. Ooh, that one came into 2 little pieces. I'm also now going to cut off any parts that I don't want, like the ends. Don't want any of that. And any unwanted spots like that. I'm just going to cut that right off because I don't really care for it. If it doesn't look pretty, I don't want to eat it. Ooh, that went deep. Oops, didn't get it. Okay. Alright, so got the yucky part out. Cut the ends off of this one. Cut the ends off of that one. This one's kind of got a little ugly spot on it as well, so I'm going to go ahead and shear that off. Good. So, once I'm done roasting the rest of these tomatoes and jalapenos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the arbol chili and my garlic cloves on there to cook them off a little bit so that they get a little heat so that their flavors start to come out a little more. Usually you'll be able to smell them when they're ready to be put in. As you can see, the skin of our tomatoes, ooh, can't really grab it, is splitting and burning a little bit. The burn is okay. We just want to make sure that it gets a nice char on all sides. That just adds a nice flavor to the salsa. The peppers will slowly get more toxic, and I guess that's not the correct word for that, but they get potent. The smell can be very potent. So we're probably going to take a little cut here so that we can deal with any of the fumes coming from our peppers. Okay, so these are pretty much done. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the jalapenos, because the juices inside the tomatoes can cook off a little bit. So I'm going to start with our jalapenos. I'm going to take them off, put them on my cutting board, and then I'm going to chop off their ends. That way we don't get the gross part, the rind here. And yes, I'm going to leave all the seeds. I'm going to leave all of that. That adds a nice heat to this meal. Okay. Stay still. Okay. So that's one. It's going straight inside. That's two, nice and green. Straight inside. Okay, now I'm going to start with our tomatoes. I'm going to grab them one by one. That's one. That's two. Look how nicely burned that is. Now, the reason I do the char, I would like to do it on a grill, but I don't have a grill, so I cook it on the pan. But the reason I do that is because it gives it a nice flavor. Without it, it just feels like something's missing. So the nice earthy and, well, burned, basically, that flavor adds a lot to this dish. Okay, so now all of those are in there. While this is still hot, I've got my arbol chili and my garlic right here, and I'm going to add that into the heat just to kind of give it a chance to release some of its flavor and some of the wonderful scents. And actually, I'm going to cut this one real quick. I'm going to cut all of them a little bit. I do not recommend cutting while you're cooking. but I didn't cut it before, so I'm doing it now. So just give that a little time, let it heat up. Woo! That's hot, so I'm going to use a oven mitt. Okay, see how they're getting nice and kind of charred, a little burn to them as well. Once they're getting that way, I'm going to add them in. Don't worry about them being chunks. They will blend pretty nicely, and we won't have to worry about that much longer. Okay, I'm going to kill our stove quick so that we don't have any more heat going on. Okay, so now that I've got everything in here, I'm going to use the blend setting on our Nutra Ninja. So I'm going to go ahead and use our Nutra Ninja and use that blend setting. I'm not sure what setting that would be on most other blenders. You would have to just kind of puree it or blend it to your liking. Steph likes it a little chunky, so I'm going to try to keep it in a chunkier texture. But it's up to you, however you like it. If you want it soupy, make it soupy, puree it. Get it so that there's hardly anything there. But again, it's up to you. What is your flavor? What's your taste? That's really all it takes. To make sure that it's nice and chunky, you don't want to blend it too long. Now, something I like to do that Steph doesn't like to do is this next part. She doesn't like it, but that's why I'm making it. So while this is still hot, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on, which I shouldn't have done before, but I forgot about this step. I'm going to take it down to a medium setting, and I'm going to add all of this back in there, and I'm going to cook off some of the juice. There's a lot of tomato juice in here, and I don't want all that. I want some of it, but not all of it. So I'm going to turn this down actually between medium and low, and I'm going to go ahead and cook what's the fond, whatever is left over in the pot, and I'm going to add that to our salsa as well. So I'm just going to let this simmer a little bit, just cook off some of that juice, some of that tomato juice, so that we get a nice thick salsa. Something that will cling almost to your chip instead of just kind of sit there and run off. So I like it when it clings to the chip. That's just the way I am. I want it to be kind of chunky but thick. I don't want it to be watery. So this will probably only take a couple of minutes. We'll just cook it off a little bit, and then we'll put it in a dish to cool. I forgot my onion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cook this off a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it back into this, and this time I'm going to add the onion, and then I'll be done. Onion's not a critical piece, but it does add a lot to the flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw this, since it's already chopped, I'm going to go ahead and throw it so it gets heated, so it absorbs some of that flavor. Then I'm going to throw it in here and blend it so it's nice and smooth. It's okay if you make a mistake. Usually there's a way to fix it. If you make a mistake doing this, no biggie, just start again if you can. If you can't, make it up. Oops. Okay, see how it's getting nice and thick? It's not as watery anymore. That's because most of that tomato juice is now cooked off. And so now it's just kind of simmering. It's just kind of done. It's there, waiting to be blended again. So this is going to be the tough part. So I'm actually going to need Steph's help. So let's take a quick break. All right, so with Steph's help, I got all of it back inside our blender without spilling too much of it. And now I'm going to just lock it in place, turn it on, give it a good blend again. And that should pretty much do it. That should take care of all the excess onion. Smells good. Spicy, though. So in that dish that I had my onions in, I'm going to go ahead and pour this into so that it has a chance to cool, so that when it's ready to actually eat, we've already got it in its serving dish. Take that out. Look at that, nice and chunky, not too watery. This definitely has heat to it. I can smell it from here. Whew. Not recommended for gringos. So my part of this is done. I did the salsa. Steph's got the beans. They've got about 38 more minutes. So hopefully Steph can get her guacamole done before they're done.